Alexa, shut the fuck up. All right, here we go. Let's do this. We're on there. We're on here. Here we go. We are gonna go full motherfucking screen. Maybe not. It's too big. All right, here we go. Welcome back. Today we're gonna cover short sales and discounting. Let's accept from the start. All right, short sales or discounting, which I'm old. I started doing this in 2004. It's actually what some banks are still calling short sales. It's going to be in a property that has little to none. It's getting the bank to take a discount. A lot of times there's going to be deals that people walk away from. I'm going to take you through them. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of opportunities and properties that have no equity. And you will be walking into a bunch of these when you get your paperwork signed without doing any research. You can actually make more money off properties that have no equity many times than your typical wholesale deal. And I might even talk to you about a couple neat little hybrids where we'll do things like take properties subject to, then short them and pay them off and just keep them, or even modify the loan and just rent them out. It's already in place. All right, so it's getting the bank to take a discount or creating equity where there is none. And we're just going to get into this and break it down. I'm even going to show you guys some examples. All right. So this is how short sales work. You're going to get all the appropriate documents signed to control the property. You already saw the legal interpretation, all the docs. We went through the presentation. We went through everything else. And that's why it's a system. It's the same set of documents all the time, every time, times 4. Now, in order to get a bank to take a discount, I need you guys to understand that a property needs to be more than 3 months behind on payments. So at the start of the 4th month, that is when the foreclosure process starts. That is when the bank retains a lawyer and files a lis pendens to start the foreclosure process. Now, 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, you're still not in foreclosure or pre-foreclosure. You're just delinquent. There may be some fees. There may be some penalties. It's probably going to mess up your credit, but they're not trying to take the house back. The start of the 4th month, I need you to accept what happens is basically you whack the bank in the head with a sledgehammer, and the bank says, holy shit, they may not be making payments anymore. These back payments are now completely unmanageable. We now have to downgrade this to a non-performing asset. Non-performing asset is one that you're not getting paid on, makes the bank look really bad on paper, takes forever to foreclose on, and on top of that, banks actually have to have 7 times the principal of the outstanding loan that they're foreclosing on the sidelines. This is a banking law, and this is what happened in like 2008 with the whole mortgage meltdown. Think about it. You got one $500,000 loan times 8. You got to have like what, $4 million on the sideline. It's 3.5, whatever. It's a tremendous amount of money. It adds up real quick. It's no wonder that if you got enough properties that are being foreclosed on, eventually it's just going to take down the whole goddamn bank. So let's keep moving. Property is now downgraded to a non-performing asset because you're 3 months delinquent. Okay. Do not tell sellers to fall behind on payments. You're technically not supposed to do that. I guess the right phrasing would be something more like, I've heard lawyers say, I can't tell you not to make your mortgage payments, but if I were in your position. And there's actually something nowadays even called strategic default because, you know, when the economy is good, and the economy is taking a turn right now while I'm recording this in 2022, but when the economy is good, it's really hard to find pre-foreclosures because everybody's got a job and everybody's making their payments. And if you find somebody who's late, either like a wife beating junk or a crackhead or some sort of degenerate or they fell on hard times, it's a total fucking mess when the economy's good and there's few deals to be had. And when the economy is bad, you got doctors and lawyers going into foreclosure. And I mean, there's actually a YouTube clip you can watch. I have it on my playlists saved. I show sellers all the time. There's something It's called a strategic default. And you can actually get a CNN video, like the news is encouraging people to do this. So figure it out. Um, you're going to contact the bank end of the third month, the start of the fourth month, same way that you contact them with your authorization to release when you're confirming the deal and clouding the title and you're ordering a payoff. All right, once your authorization to release is on file and you get that payoff and you see how huge that payoff is and you get comps and you find out that that comp or those comps, which are comparables, are significantly less than the property is worth, you are going to request a short sale packet. Now, sometimes the bank's going to say no. Maybe it's because it's 4 months down. Maybe it's because it's the first or second month of the year, and the end of that bank's fiscal year is December. So towards the end of the year, when most banks have the end of their fiscal year and some have different ends, you can pick it, as we learned when we created our LLC. That's when they're going to want to take short sales. That's when they're going to want to take discounts because they get to write these things off. So if they accept less money, they get to write off everything in between. All right. If they say, no, we do not do short sales, that bank is actually lying to you. And all banks do it. It's just a waiting game. And these things can take some time. When you receive the packet, provide the bank's loss mitigation department with all the required documents. I'm going to go through some of the basics. I've also furnished you guys with a seller's checklist, and I'm going to furnish you guys with a seller's checklist. Somebody's messaging me over here. It's typically similar from bank to bank. You're going to gather and complete all the appropriate paperwork with the seller's bank. You're going to paint a really bleak financial picture. You're not going to lie. And if they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in a bank account and they want the bank to take a discount, that ain't going to work either. So, you should not tell them to take it out and put it under their mattress. You guys figure it out. So these are going to be your typical short sale documents. Most short sale packets are going to request W-2s. If the person is not a W-2 employee, they're not working, or they're 1099, you could just give them the 1099. Or you can also just tell them they're not working, haven't worked in years, and that's why there's no W-2s. That always seems to help. Pay stubs, again, if they got them. If not, a pay stub from whenever the last time they were paid was. Bank statements, again, there's a 2 or 3 month look back period. Banks can request 2 to 3 months of bank statements. So try not to show them anything where they got too much money. If they just took it all out of the account, a lot of times I'm just going to let it roll. So we get a couple months worth of statements. Purchase and sales agreement. At this point in time, like, willingness is the number one thing I look for on the part of the seller. I will typically have them sign at least half a dozen purchase and sales agreements blank. We already know there's no equity in the property, and in the event we get the short sale accepted, 90% of the time the seller is going to walk away with nothing, and that is a law. If the payoff on a short sale says the seller walks away with nothing and you pay them, you've committed a crime, especially if you write a check. There's now a paper trail, and the statute of limitations on fraud never runs out. So for the love of God, don't do it. If they're looking for money on a short sale, many times they've lived in this particular house for months or years without making a payment, and the payments might have been $2,000 a month. Take that $2,000, let's say they're in the house for a year, multiply it times 12. You just stole $24,000 from the bank in free rent. So please don't ask for anything. Okay, Bonnie, Clyde, I hope we understand. So if they're looking for something, they have already absconded with the financial benefit of free living expenses. A hardship letter. This is typically going to be something that you write out to the bank with the seller. Again, don't lie, but you can really Stephen King it up. If something bad happened, I would use some very descriptive words, tell a horror story. I've included pictures of friggin' horrible car accident injuries and where people died. Some terrible shit. You're going to be dealing with a short sale negotiator or a loss mitigation person at the bank on the other end of the line, who's typically getting paid minimum wage. and they get reverse commission, so they actually get a little bit more if they lose less for the bank. You need to appeal to their sympathy, and this thing's got to be so disgusting that like they don't even want to look at it. A preliminary HUD statement. We're going to provide you with some of those. If you guys don't know how to fill those out, we're more than happy to help you do it. Just contact my office. Matter of fact, we can negotiate your short sales for you too, because we got a whole processing center here. There's going to be a financial worksheet. Now, this is like an income statement and a balance sheet, and it's going to tell you what they're making and what they're spending and why this isn't making sense. It's a lot like bankruptcy or anything else. They're just going to tell you this is the reasons why you're stupid and this is what you need fixed. Obviously, selling the house typically helps. Pictures of the house. Pictures of the house should be absolutely horrifying. The worst stuff you can possibly see. If the house is vacant, not saying trash it. I'm also not saying don't. I've actually got a friend who's coined the term prehabbing, where he knows he's going to short these things, then he's going to fix them up and sell them. So they'll actually do the demolition before the BPO, and it comes in a lot cheaper all the time. If you're not doing anything too creative, I would take pictures of everything that's absolutely horrible all along and all around the house. There's three things in particular that can't typically be seen, but every house could theoretically have if it's old enough. The first one is going to be, you always tell the bank and the BPO agent the house has asbestos shingles under the shingles. Whether it does or whether it doesn't, if it's old enough, it probably does. They're not going to get out there and pry shingles up to see if they can get white lung disease and die a horrible death of asphyxiation a few years later. So, sure, it has asbestos shingles. I'm not checking it, especially if the house is old enough. Neither are they. That's automatically going to take a huge chunk of debt out. It could be 20, 30 grand right there. The basement has black mold in it. Now, look at me when I tell you this. Do not go buy a bag of Kingsford or Matchlight charcoal and smear it all over the walls in the basement, because I'm told that this looks exactly like mold, which is another $10, $20, $30, $50,000 problem. You should not do that. I didn't tell you to. And finally, do not take a dump in a spackle bucket and put it under the sink in the bathroom and tell the BPO agent this particular property has a clogged up sewer line or sewer main, which is another massive expense to fix. Take pictures of all that stuff and anything else you may find. And eventually, your goal in presenting all this stuff to the bank is going to get the bank to do a BPO or an appraisal. A BPO is it's a broke person's opinion or a broker's price opinion. I can't tell the difference anymore. And an appraisal is just done by a licensed appraiser. The BPO agents that do these BPOs don't get paid a lot. A lot of times the realtors, I think they get 40 to 60 bucks to do an external. They drive by 50 miles an hour, snap a picture, get it off Google, never leave the office. And they have to split that like a commission with the broker. You want them to do an internal, and you really want to scare them when they're in there. I mean, shove their face in the spackle bucket or the mold or whatever. I mean, show up with masks. I know it's a pandemic now; everybody wears them. Tyvek suits are great. Spraying cans of Raid. This should look like a place you don't want to go into, even if it's a place that you go into. You figure it out. You got to sell the story. All right, here's your goal. Your goal with short sale discounting is going to be to get the bank to send out a BPO agent. And again, we know that that's a broker's price opinion. They're going to tell you, all right, we think we're going to accept your offer. We're going to do BPO. When the BPO agent gets there, and I got a couple little anecdotal stories and BPOs I'll show you in a minute, you're going to get the bank to accept a lower offer than the principal outstanding mortgage. And honestly, let's talk about BPO agents, let's talk about brokers, and let's talk about appraisers. Let's talk about human beings in general. They're fucking lazy, right? So if you know that the low sold comparables for the area are $250,000. And it took you a while to find those, and you printed them out and you have them in your email. The BPO agent called you, and his name is Jack, and you've dealt with him before because he also likes a fifth of Jack every time you see him. So you give him one and you hand him a bunch of sold comparables, and you go, "Hey, Jack, here's your fifth of Jack. And by the way, I did your homework for you. I can almost 100% guarantee that that lazy motherfucker is going to use those sold comparables in his BPO report, and you're going to make the numbers." So, is this influencing? Yeah, I think so. And is this doing somebody's homework with them? They're going to thank you for it and help them out. They hate their life and their job anyway. Again, a BPO agent is typically a realtor, and the average realtor's career is 6 months or less. So, it ain't going to matter. The BPO is the newly determined property value. Banks are typically accepting now 80% of the BPO. So if I give Jack a bunch of comps for $200,000 and I knew that that was the price of the property, well, we've got to figure out 180. So they accept about 160-ish, give or take. That would be your payoff. We already know that the low price is 200. So if you paid it off and there wasn't any kind of seasoning requirement, you could automatically immediately resell it at the bottom of the market and pick up roughly 40 grand. All right. Once you got your BPO and everything's been accepted, you got your short sale payoff, you're going to have to purchase the property either conventionally with cash or mortgage, or you could use one of the people we're going to reference you to, like Best Transactional Funding, and my buddy Tony Ortega, who's got like $10 million in a checking account, has been funding these things for me since like 2007. And it'll actually give you guys the money. You're welcome. Just tell them Chuck sent you to pay these things off, provided you have them resold. Okay, he's going to charge 1.75% for the day. That's not a lot, especially if you need 300, 500,000. And honestly, it's a great contact, and I hope you use it. Plus, a lot of times you're going to need proof of funds to get your short sales accepted. So they actually have something on their website that will generate one for you. In the event you even need a bank statement to do so for a fee, he will give you one of those. All right. So let's talk a little bit about short sales. This is actually one of my first short sales. This particular picture is what I like to call the money shot. Because when the bank sees this, they know they're going to lose money. Okay. Again, this is one of my first short sales. Probably one of the worst deals I actually did. Didn't make too much on it. Barely cracked $10,000. I think it was like 9 and change. I got this house from somebody who fancied himself to be a street pharmacist, and he loaded this place up with his clientele. Wow. Now, it was his first crack house. Everybody was pretty polite. He walked me through the place. I don't know how crackheads had cell phones, but they did. I got a bunch of their numbers. I worked a deal with this guy. He was actually a better business person than most realtors. And eventually I got to the point of where I needed a BPO. Now, this is in the South Ward of Newark, New Jersey, also known as Hell. And the BPO agent was coming from Ridgewood, New Jersey, which might be one of the waspiest towns there is. She called me up, told me she was going to meet me there at 10 a.m. She's driving the big, like, 7 Series BMW. It's white. She'll be wearing a dress and heels. I called up all of my clients who occupied the property. I told them, listen, guys, 10 a.m. tomorrow, I'm going to meet you at the house. I got a friend driving a big BMW. She's going to come in. She's going to want to see the place. And she wants hugs. Brought her in, showed her some stuff. Everybody tried to give her a hug. She tried to run out. I had a guy block the door and give her a hug. Bottom line is, it was a success. This is what the deal actually looked like. My binder deposit is always $10. I picked this one up for $147. I shorted it for $110. I resold it the same day for $125. I did pay everybody's closing costs just to get it done. I walked away with a little over $9 grand. Deal sucks, but I learned the process, and that's all this is a process. Okay, it's something you can duplicate again and again and again, but you need to get that first repetition in, and that's always going to be the hardest. Furthermore, there was a title issue. I actually had to wait for one of my checks. Discounting second liens. Let's talk about this a little bit. Okay, if there is a second lien holder on the property and it's not part of the foreclosure action, or if the first lien agrees to take a discount, the second lien can usually be bought at a steep discount or disregarded entirely with the appropriate documentation. And that's a pretty cool thing because that's just a way to lop off a huge chunk of debt, a lot of times 50, 100, 200 grand. Here's another example. I used this in one of my previous presentations. We were talking about the house on the left earlier when we were talking about subject twos that I bought and sold. This is a good reason to talk to your neighbors, and this is a good reason to keep a buyer's list. Okay. I got a call about a month after I sold the house to the left from the house on the right. And they said, "Hey, Chuck, we really didn't like our old neighbor. We like what you did with her, and we like what you did for her, but we didn't like her. And we like our new neighbors a lot better. Oh, hey, by the way, we're in foreclosure. You think you can help us out?" And I was like, gee, let me think. Sure. As I was going through my buyer's list for the house on the left, and I had a lot of people that said, "Do you have anything a little smaller? Do you have anything a little cheaper in the same neighborhood, possibly a fixer-upper?" This is Jersey City. I think this was like Jewett Ave or something. This is what this particular deal looked like. Again, $10 is what I'm in for. Purchase price, $362. Sales price, $389. Everybody's closing costs, 15 grand. Yet my profit was 72,000. And that's because there was a private second mortgage that I was able to purchase for $1,000. Now, the way I was able to do that is the first mortgage had been foreclosing and there was a sale date on the horizon. I was willing to let it go. Called up the second mortgage holder towards the end of the year, and I was like, "Hey, listen, you got a sale date on this property, and it's going to go to foreclosure, and the first lien is foreclosing. You're not part of that action. When that happens, you're going to walk away with zero. Now, you got a lien on the property for $62,000. I might pay off the first mortgage, but if you don't say yes, I'm just going to let it go to foreclosure, and you get zero." And the person on the other end of the phone said, "We would take something. We would take anything. We would even take $1,000." And I was like, "Send me the paperwork." And they did. And I sent it back with a check. And just like that, $62,000 disappeared into thin air. Did it really disappear? Money's not real. It's a piece of paper in second position. It says it's worth $62,000. That's the mortgage. I acquired it for $1,000. However, if I didn't, they would have gotten zero. So did they make out? I would say they did. Again, here's the concept. I owe you $62,000. I am walking for the door. When I get there, I'm getting in a car and getting on a plane, and I am leaving the country, and I am never coming back again. So here's your options. You could take this $1,000 now, or you could take zero and I walk out the door. What do you want it to be? Make up your mind quick. Okay, you'll take the 1,000. Good. It's not too bad. It was actually a really good year for me. It's like my rock star breakdown year. All right. Problems with short sales and discounting. Number one, you got to work hand in hand with the seller and rely upon their record keeping for past financial documents. Now, you can also access them with your authorization to release, but it's a lot easier with the seller's cooperation. Again, the number one thing I want you guys to look for in all of these deals is the seller's willingness. If the seller is willing, there's a way. If they're not, you might as well just move on. I mean, that's like dating a hot chick that doesn't like you. You're better off just dating the girl that wants to be with you. It's an easier life. It can be a lengthy, drawn-out process. I have here it only works about 50% of the time. We're a little higher than that now. I think we're probably closer to 80, sometimes 90. That may drop to 75. And in the situations nowadays where it doesn't work out, typically the reason why it doesn't work out is because the seller does not provide you with documents in a timely fashion. The seller doesn't provide you with the docs you need, you can't get it done. They go to foreclosure. End of story. All right. that was my broad overview of short sales. We're going to do another extensive video with my partner Linton, who is the mastermind behind all of our short sale negotiations. I mean, he's really been killing this stuff, bringing houses in at as low as 35 cents on the dollar. So if you guys have these, and you will have these if you're working the system and you don't want to sit down and actually negotiate a short sale. And I mean, in the beginning, I just wanted to do it so I could learn and figure it out. And I taught him and another guy by the name of Matt Marinoff and another guy by the name of Nick Tang, and they just took the ball and ran with it. And they've been killing shit ever since. So this is short sales and discounting. I hope you guys have really enjoyed this. I'll be back shortly in the next module. We're going to go over the absolute assignment of rights. And I'm going to teach you guys how to market these properties to sellers, a little bit about credit restoration, the closing process. It's basically organized chaos. And then I'm going to show you what to do with the money when you make it. I hope you've enjoyed this. Chuck Cohout, always be closing. Bye for now.